when people are healthier, right, they have a healthier mindset. They have a healthier outlook on things. These are not just, trivial, marketing slogans for the industry. These are real scientifically proven things.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full Time Out. I'm your host, Ari Bruckman. Joining us on the show this week, we have a very special guest who is a self-proclaimed gym junkie since his teens. He opened the first AnyTime fitness club in 2002 in Cambridge, Minnesota, and began working in the fitness industry in 1995. He currently is the vice president for international franchising for AnyTime Fitness. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our special guest this week, Mr. Eric Keller. Eric, how are we, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Ari. Appreciate it. So lovely Sunday here with the Masters. So, just watching that wrap up, kind of exciting, right?
Absolutely. Tiger out there and everything. So talk to me, before we dive into the AnyTime fitness aspect, you started working in the fitness industry in 1995. What was it about that time period that allowed you to gravitate towards that industry?
Yeah, so I'd always played lots of sports growing up as a kid, right? Played hockey and track and baseball. And, throughout my teens, I was always kind of curious. We'd always, kind of lie about our age, just sneak into the YMCA weight room and everything else. And, when I was about 16 years old, I joined an actual private gym, if you will. And I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the culture. I liked lifting weights. I was actually good at it. I'm kind of could build muscle easily. And, the owner of the gym at the time just took a liking to, my progress in the gym. And it actually got me introduced into bodybuilding, believe it or not. And I competed in a couple amateur bodybuilding shows when I was 17, 18 years old. So from then on, I was just hooked.
So I know we talked about this a little bit over the phone, but I find this really, really interesting. And that's at first, you get your degree in kinesiology. That's a different path. For some of the listeners who aren't familiar with the fitness industry, that doesn't necessarily make you, a personal trainer, and it doesn't necessarily get you into that side of fitness. What was it for you? Because I know we talked about having two different mindsets versus when you're in the gym training with somebody and working with somebody, and then, kind of nursing them back to full health after, an injury as a physical therapist.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. My original track and the reason why I pursued kinesiology was it was one of the degrees that you could later go on and get into grad school and go become a full-fledged PT. And so I did that. And of course it was, mostly medically focused, had a lot of other undergrads in there that could go into, other types of things, occupational therapy and whatnot. But, as I started getting into the field, right, the field of physical therapy that was really on the medical side, I really realized I didn't really care to work around that kind of clinical environment, right? So I was kind of in this little bit of a limbo, if you will. And I was like, hey, I need a job. So what can I go do? And so I went and got a job as at first a trainer and then became a manager. And that was where that first gym that I got a job at was owned by our co-founders, Chuck Runyon and Dave Mortensen, back in 1997.
Okay. And can you talk a little bit more about what that thought process was for you? I mean, because there was definitely a turning point. I would assume that you kind of came to this realization, this isn't what I want to do. This is more what I want to do. So I know it's not what I got my degree in necessarily, but I want to do it now.
Well, I think I mentioned on our pre-interview that, I am very fortunate to have some very good mentors along the way, all along my life, right? Everything starting from my parents to coaches to other family members and other people in the business community. And it just so happened that I had an older cousin who was a physical therapist in Chicago at the time. And so I called her up and I said, I was just really struggling. I was just really struggling with like, oh gosh, I'd spent all this time and energy getting this degree and I didn't love it. And she's like, Eric, you've got to go do something you love. What do you love? And boy, that was just kind of like this turning point for me. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but I just knew that I didn't want to do that. And that's where I kind of just decided, let's just see what happens here. Right.
Yeah, no. So in 2002, you talked about you opening up that first location, and then you having already worked there. Can you talk about how that opportunity presented itself, or was that
Yeah,
something you had to create and bring to them?
It was when I worked there, it was a very small club. It was just between myself and of course Chuck and Dave. We got to know each other quite well, and late in 2001. I just kind of was inside of a conversation. They were talking about this new idea for, a small kind of turnkey gym that, could go into small communities, underserved communities. And, we're going to call it All the Time Fitness or something. And, I'm sitting here going, wow, that sounds like something I could do. Right. And so, I kind of sheepishly, raised my hand, said, hey, I quit, I want to go do that thing. And so they're like, great, you can go do it. We're going to franchise this. And I was like, what's that? So, I mean, it was really just kind of a being in the right place at the right time, I guess, if you will. And in addition to myself, there were two other members of our organization that actually went on to open up their AnyTime Fitnesses later in that year in 2002.
Okay, so for you, did you have to relearn, I guess, the business side? I mean, I myself wasn't a business major, but I assume that there's a whole nother side than just the fitness that you kind of had to get accustomed to before taking that on.
Absolutely. So when I made this huge commitment, I had this mild moment of panic, which is I know nothing about running a business outside of the front end of the business, which is the sales and marketing and the operations of a club I knew quite well. And so I said, gosh, I got to go back to school, but I got to do it quick. I can't exactly go get another degree between now and opening up my gym. And so, I went to the bookstore. I grabbed Small Business for Dummies. I, got into, the E-Myth by Gerber and some of those early books that really, did that. And I just tried to become a sponge. What do I need to know? How do I need to help, myself through this? In addition to that, I just, had to also kind of decide what it was that I really needed help on. And then I had to really go grab that help. I, have never been great at like finance or numbers. It doesn't interest me that much. So I had to get a bookkeeper, right? And just be like, hey, help me out. And it was a great investment because, I certainly wanted to focus more on, servicing the members and running a great club or a great business and, not so much on the back end and, payroll and, P&Ls and paying taxes and all that stuff. So
I know you touched on it a little bit. You talked about coaches and mentors, your parents. Who is it for you? I know that, most people that I've talked to who have reached, the level of success that you've been able to, achieve and just continue to do great things. They have somebody or, a process that they go through, where they're able to emulate this, really exhaustive work ethic. Who was that for you? Do you think that you tried to model, the most after?
Well, I would say I've had many, right? I've had several throughout, 45 years of my life, but I'd have to go back. Talk specifically about work ethic. I'd have to say my parents, I grew up in rural South Dakota. One side of my family was, they were in farming and agriculture. You got to have work ethic when you're in farming and agriculture. And on the other side, our family had a small business, in the automotive side of things, and so I really looked up and emulated that. I really had to, figure out what work ethic was, and do the job right the first time, all that good stuff, and nothing's ever perfect, but I would say that was probably the biggest thing going into my early career was just, you won't always get it right. You're probably going to fail a few times, but, not to give up. And certainly you got to out hustle. You got to just, you don't have it all figured out, even as much as you think you do. Right. So, but I would have to say my parents, certainly at the beginning.
First of all, I love that. I think that's really, really awesome. You've been working in the fitness industry for 20 years, right? Over 20 years now. What is it that every single day you get up and you're excited about, going to work, and that really still continues to motivate you to really get the best out of yourself?
If we just took the American population, right? Only 1 out of 5, right? 20% of American adults actually work out or get exercise outside of their daily occupations, which is pretty bad when you think about all of the different health problems that we have in the modern world, right? Obesity and diabetes and heart disease. And when you think about the industry itself, how do we continue to grow? And we haven't quite unlocked that, right? And I think a lot of it is because working out is it's hard for most people, right? It's a change of lifestyle. It's people have preconceived notions of I'm going to get sweaty and all the other things that are out there. And really when you think about, we're creating opportunities, not just inside our gyms, outside of our gyms, how we connect within our communities. We've done so many success stories throughout the years of people who've changed their lives, not just by getting fit, but just by, getting healthier, right? Moving more, you name it. So, there is still a massive amount of people out there that could benefit from some activity in their life, whether it's at an AnyTime Fitness, whether it's buying a new pair of running shoes and just getting out and walking, right? So we really think that we could be a part of that as self-esteem brands, throughout our AnyTime Fitness and some of the other brands that we have out there. In addition to some of the fitness side of things, I also think too, on the business side of things, right? Creating business opportunities through the franchising side of things, right? For small business owners, families, employers. When we build a gym, we create jobs, we create, all kinds of wealth around that. And it's just been really, really exciting to do that for the last, 15, 20 years.
Right now, I think the coronavirus has created a lot of, anxiety and tension and just, that feeling of unknown. And I think that in itself creates a lot of panic, for people. But the one thing I said, I talked to my buddies about this, who constantly go to the gym, and it's no longer to conveniently go. It's just not convenient anymore. So if you're going to go and you're going to do things, you really have to dedicate yourself. You really have to put everything into it and say, look, this is going to be hard and I'm not a fan of what I'm doing, but I understand why I'm doing it. How important would you say having that mindset and being able to grow in that gym setting and feeling good about yourself, how important is that to just being successful in other areas of your life?
An individual's journey, right, in fitness. We certainly see our swath of people who become members or join our gyms that, were much like me, right? They were athletes before. Working out isn't necessarily a tall order. It could be inconvenient at times, but it's like anything else that you need to do in life, right? I don't want to make my bed, but I need to make my bed. I don't want to brush my teeth, but I got to brush my teeth. And we think about what it takes for individuals, your average individuals, right? They're starved for time. They need plans. They need help. They need coaching and accountability. So for us, it's really about thinking, what can we do to create an easier pathway to getting healthier, moving more. And it's not just dumbbells and treadmills anymore. It's having a coach, having somebody that can be there alongside with you. And when you don't feel like going to gym on Thursday night, you'd rather go to happy hour or whatever it might be. Well, maybe pre-corona times. Or going home and sitting on the couch for Netflix. it's really about creating that, right? Whether it's a coach, whether it's a workout buddy, whether it's someone in your family to do that. But, you can have 1,000 failures when you start out on your exercise journey. The next day is the best step that you do, right? You just get back up on it. So I think when you think about how that, applies to other parts of your life, when people are healthier, right? They have a healthier mindset. They have a healthier outlook on things. These are not just, trivial, marketing slogans for the industry. These are real scientifically proven things that, people who are healthier generally enjoy a lot more of the benefits of life. And so, it's definitely, we got a long way to go, but, we think we're doing the right things.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think, for me personally, I've been able to call the gym a second home. I think we talked about this over the phone a little bit, but this is really the only second other gym I've ever been to where, and I belong to an AnyTime Fitness here in Rockford, but that it's created this family environment. And I like to be able to go there and say, look, I'm coming in, I'm ready to work on me, because everybody is in there to get better. Although there are some growing pains. Can you talk to me about, more on the entrepreneurial side, just for people who are trying to get going now, maybe with their own business, or they're trying to branch off and do their own thing. What was it about, your failures or growing pains that you really think allowed you to get to where you are now?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I think about two kind of specific things, both of them kind of leading back to mindset, right? When you want to start a business or invest in anything, there's a term that investors use called ROI. What's my return on investment, right? If I'm going to invest money, what do I get back out of it? And, we've kind of coined the term ROEI. And what the E stands for is your return on emotional investment. When you invest money, it's kind of a passive thing, right? You're not so emotionally connected to whether Amazon stock goes up or down. I suppose if you work for Amazon, you do. But, for the most part, if it's just a passive investment, there's not a lot of emotion in it. But, for a business owner, right, whether you, start your own independent business or whether you, go into a franchise like AnyTime Fitness, or, even if you're just putting an investment into your degree, your college or anything else, that time investment creates an emotional, drag sometimes, right? Like, is this worth it? Because it's going to get tough. You're going to have setbacks. And so I think it's really about thinking about the emotional output, right? What do I get back from it that, can't be necessarily quantified in, my bank account or anything else. So that's really one side, right? Like, thinking about your ROEI of anything that you're doing in life. And then, specifically on the other side of business too, is what's the mindset that you have going into it? Are you looking namely just for, income or lifestyle, things that, you kind of think out, or do you have a long-term mindset, right? Something that's more about building wealth, building equity. And I think, those would be two things that I think any business owner kind of has to traverse through, right? What is your mindset? If it's short-term, there's a lot of higher risk. There's nothing wrong with short-term, but, generally speaking, when you're working in a business that's got a 2 or 3 year return, on the P&L side, you're going to be in it for the long haul. And when you start your own business or when you go into something, remember, it's not just you, it's all the people around you, right? Your spouse or, your family or your friends, right? They're also kind of in this universe along with you going through this ride. And so you got to make sure that support network is really good for you and supportive of what you're doing.
Your foundation for you've talked about it being your parents, but obviously I think for a lot of younger investors, whether it's in themselves, the stock market, whatever the case may be, there is that fear, right, of, failure. And we find that that's not just in that area, but it's really in all aspects of life is, nobody wants to fail. what did you tell yourself at a young age that you said, look, I don't know everything about this industry, but I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to put my head down and figure it out.
Yeah, that's a great, these questions are bringing up these very distinct kind of almost visceral memories of when I first started, right? I was 26 years old when I opened my first business. I had no idea. I had borrowed more money than I thought, which wasn't a lot when you consider in today's dollars, but it was still a lot to me. And I had this immense sort of pride, right? Everybody's got an ego. And so this, take no prisoners, no, no failure. But I will tell you, I had a lot of lonely and introspective drives home from that job or that business when I came home going, I don't know. I just don't know. And a lot of self-doubt. And, I will say though, that foundation was I would, even if I didn't give myself a reason to fail, right? I mean, people can make excuses and say I failed because, competitor, because, something happened, and, failures in business do happen. But, I was going to just leave it all out on the table and say, if I fail, then at least I tried, right? At least I did it. And I can't say that I'll go do something else, right? I'll change careers, right? If I fail, but I'm going to absolutely do everything in my human power, right? And so I think a lot of it, Ari, is really just, we all have these like inner, what they call in coaching, like a saboteur, right? There are these saboteurs that kind of tell you, you're not good enough, you don't have enough money, or your competitor's better than you, all these things. And you've got to learn to kind of keep that inner saboteur in check, right? And instead think about who is your inner leader, right? Your inner, kind of captain, your inner champion. And I think those are the things that, anybody kind of, have in their life. And, when you get in tune with that, I think then your pathways, your solutions, they become a lot more clear.
That's really great, and that definitely speaks to what Anytime Fitness is now, and really just the kind of people it employs, and that I've had a chance to meet and be associated with. Eric, tell everybody, where can they find more about you, or as well as Anytime Fitness?
Sure. Yeah. You can find out more about me if you're interested on LinkedIn. You can just search Eric Keller, and I should come up there. Our parent company is called Self-Esteem Brands. And we formed Self-Esteem Brands about 8 or 9 years ago after we started acquiring some other unique brands out there, not only in the fitness space, but also in the personal care space. So you can search Self-Esteem Brands and you can see our family of franchise opportunities. Obviously, the one that I'm involved with most is Anytime Fitness, but we also have an exclusive waxing services called Wax in the City, which started around the same time back in 2002 or 2003 in Denver, Colorado. And so there's about 120 of those locations nationwide. And then in recent years, we've acquired a small business studio brand, or kind of high intensity workout, called Basecamp Fitness out of California. And also the bar method, which is a bar type workout. And so you can find all that information at selfesteembrands.com.
Eric, what's one piece of advice that you can give to young entrepreneurs that's applicable, that they can take home right now, that you wish you would have known, or somebody would have at least told you earlier on in the process, that you think would be important for being successful?
That's a good one. I think, as I kind of lent a little bit of credence to ego in my early days, right? Like anybody else, I had a healthy sense of ego, especially when you get early success, right? Whether it's by your own hand or any other hand, we're kind of have a self-biased, right? And I think there were opportunities where I could have learned more and not been closed off to either new ideas or just preparing for what have you. Here we are in the midst of a global pandemic. I don't think there's been any business that's been unaffected or any person that's been unaffected. But throughout all this time, never stop learning. There's always great books, great mentors, great people out there. You can never stop learning. The day you think you know it all is the day you stop learning. And, it stunts your personal growth, not maybe even your business growth or your financial growth, but absolutely just keep learning.
Eric, that's amazing, man. And before I let you go, I normally always ask this question of what kind of impact do you want to have on the world and the industry itself. But because it seems like you're in different industries and you're managing different brands, what do you look for? You're kind of like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. I'm where I should be.
Sure, certainly being part of a brand for so many years that now is on 7 continents and 4,500 units strong across the globe. You don't get that opportunity really, maybe once in a lifetime, right? That's always been exciting. I think that'll always kind of stick with me as part of that legacy to be along for so long of this. But, and I think, often too, at some point this will come to an end for me, right? Whether, there's a change of career or I retire, and I never want to stop helping small business owners, young entrepreneurs, people who are interested in building business. I think it's such a great opportunity. It's so fulfilling personally, but when you see the success that people have, both financially and also personally as they grow through their business, it's quite exciting, and I don't think I'll ever give that up. I'll still be the guy probably giving, for what it's worth, free advice at the coffee shop or something else, or at some random community college. I'm always happy to talk with young entrepreneurs in any field, right? Whether it's fitness or franchising or even independent business.
Continue to do great things. Like I said, I would recommend going to AnyTime Fitness. Guys, if you haven't had a chance to go to their gyms, I really do recommend it. I know people are trying to save money and whatnot, but they really are just accommodating to try and help you out and just make it a place where you feel welcome in the environment, regardless of what time in your workout journey or fitness journey you're at. I think that's really, really important, especially if you get discouraged easily in the process, like I did. So thank you guys for tuning in. Eric, thank you so much for your time, man. I appreciate it, and I wish you the best. We'll talk soon.
Appreciate it, Ari. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to this session of Full Time Out. Go out and do great things. We got a lot of good stuff to do.
Thank you again, Full Time Out fans. I appreciate you guys tuning in this week. We'll be back next week with a new episode as well as a new guest. If you guys are loving this content, be sure to message us on Instagram, subscribe on YouTube, and follow us on TikTok. We really want to grow this thing, but we need you guys. You guys are the heart and soul of this show. Thank you guys again. Remember, stay safe, be confident. We'll see you next week.